Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today is three phenomenal brothers that are taking some time out of their busy schedule to just kind of hang out with me tonight. We're talking about iron sharpens iron. We had an episode earlier in this season, and we had such an awesome conversation that we had to have a part two to this conversation because it just simply the time got away from us. Just talking about a variety of different topics with the hopes of inspiring, encouraging, and uplifting, particularly men, because a lot of times as men, we don't, have that opportunity to kind of open up and be vulnerable and being transparent with one another, expressing our feelings and our emotions, things of that nature, because quite naturally, growing up as young men, we were often made to feel that it was not a good thing for men to be open, transparent, for men to express their feelings or to share vulnerabilities that they might be having in their respective lives. But you know what's phenomenal about these brothers that I have on board tonight? These are men of God, husbands, fathers, men who are serving as mentors to others. These are not just only men who are believers, but they are servers of God. We are brothers in Christ. We all attend the same church. I love these brothers like as if they're my own blood brothers. And I'm so happy that they're linking up with me one more time to pour into, to share, to uplift, to encourage, and everything else that God is going to work through us to be able to do this evening. So without any further ado, it is my privilege, it is my honor, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you Mr. Amos Wilson, Mr. Tim McCray, and Mr. Derrick Sledge. Brothers, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So before we get started, awesome. So before we get started, I do want to give each of you brothers an opportunity to share a little bit about yourselves, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Just kind of give our audience a little bit of taste of your backgrounds and what you're all about. So I'm gonna start with our newest guest to the panel for this evening, Mr. Amos Wilson. So Amos, if you would go ahead, tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you again for having me. My name is Amos Wilson. I am originally from Durham, North Carolina. I am not a Duke fan. I'm a Tar Heel fan. So if that's an issue, then tell me now. But I moved to Texas in 1991. I've previously lived in Miami, Florida, and Atlanta, Georgia. But again, I've been in Texas since 1991. And I work for an aerospace and defense company called Raytheon, and I am a human resources manager there. In December will be 21 years.
Awesome. Good stuff. Brother Tim, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
And that's probably all it is a little bit. But anyway, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Timothy McCray, everyone. I'm from a little town in northeast Texas called Texarkana, Texas. Have a lovely, lovely wife, almost 27-year-old son, two teenage daughters. I work for a national nonprofit, been there almost 20 years, called the American Heart Association. And just happy to be here. Just happy to be here with you, brothers, just to share this opportunity and to share the time with you. Thank you.
Awesome, my brother. And last but not least, Brother Derrick Sledge. Brother Sledge, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Hey, God bless you, family, friends. I am originally from Harlem, New York City. I was born into the family of God, that is, saved in December of 1980. That was a long time ago, and it's been quite a journey. I recently retired from public education last June after working as a classroom teacher and school counselor for about 27 years. So now I'm doing private practice as a therapist. I coach and supervise counselor interns who are looking to become fully licensed. And I am enjoying giving more time and more of my resources to the ministry at our church, Northeast Bible Church in Plano, Texas. Glad to be here, Deacon.
Awesome. So again, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we got these phenomenal brothers with a broad sense of backgrounds, experiences, and the like. You are in for a treat this evening, and I know I'm excited to just chop it up once again with these brothers. If you haven't had a chance to see the original episode, Iron Sharpens Iron, please do check it out to catch the start to our conversation. So this is, again, part 2 of that conversation. And with that said, since Amos is new to our panel for this evening, I'm going to jump right in with Amos because we got to get caught up with him and find out a little bit more about his journey. So again, I'm so thankful for having this brother in the building with me. This is one of my favorite brothers in the church, and you just can't help but love this brother. He's just a good all around dude to be around. So, with that said, Amos, I'm a firm believer that when we talk about our journeys, our stories, it's really critical that in order to get the full essence of what that story is all about, it's important that we go back to the beginning, the foundational basis of where it all starts. And so that's exactly where I'm going to go with you. So if you would share with us, what was it like for you coming up? I know you said you're originally from North Carolina. Kind of tell us, what was it like for you coming up? Fond memories that you have about growing up, as well as if there was any challenges that you'd like to share about it. Just kind of give us that foundational basis of where your story begins.
Okay, well, thank you again for allowing me to share my experience. It wasn't all pretty. I grew up, again, in Durham, North Carolina. I had 2 parents until I was 11, and my father was murdered. I was the only boy with 2 older sisters, and my mother, Doris Wilson, may they both rest in peace. I'm Amos Jr. May they both rest in peace. She did her best. I tell people all the time, I'll never be the man my mother was. I mean, because she was tough, and she made sure that we did the right things, went to church, behaved, didn't embarrass her, and just provided a lot of love. It was a small house, not a whole lot, material things, but we never wanted for anything. So, coming up, it was difficult because I was only 11 years old when my father passed. He was murdered. And the thing is, one of my regrets as I got older, and still some now, is that back then, we were in the country and they didn't believe in counseling or whatever. So never really had any grief counsel as a result of that, which I think it probably affected me and some of the things that I did coming through. Try to be respectful and be a good man, that would make my parents proud, my father proud and stuff, but enjoyed sports, was popular in school, tried to do good in school and just be a good guy as best I could. Now, as a result of my father passing, I looked to his brothers and some of the other men in the area and in the neighborhood and stuff. And unfortunately, I guess I didn't get the proper mentorship that I think I should have, because they were consumed with going to work and taking care of their families, but also drinking, doing other stuff, and chasing ladies. And so that's what I was exposed to, and that's what I thought was the right thing to do. Until I had to do like we do on our computers, a Control Alt Delete, and kind of refocus and reshape my thoughts about what it is to be a man. Because I feel like my childhood in a lot of ways ended when I was 11. I started working and, started playing sports and was pretty good at it. I remember, when I was about to graduate high school, I was telling my mother, because I was making a little bit of money. I was feeling myself a little bit. And I said, I don't think I'm going to go to college. She said, okay, well, you can leave, get out of my house right now. And she meant it. She absolutely, Doris Wilson, I always tell people, she quit school because of recess. You know why? Because she didn't play. She didn't play at all. And so I ended up going to college. I said, okay, well, I'm going in the fall of 79 and I'm coming out in the spring of 83. And that's what I did. And it was the graduation was so beautiful I'm telling my age now. Yes, I'm almost 63 in August. I'm the oldest guy on here. But anyway, the day I graduated college was the same day as her birthday. So when I came off and had my diploma, I handed it to her, and we hugged. It was just a beautiful moment. And so it still kind of gets me right here because she was everything to me. She taught me how to do everything: cook, clean, work, fight, everything. she taught me everything. So I grew up, it was trying, and if I had to do anything different, it would have been to get some grief counseling because he was killed. We had a funeral, and we were right back in school. There was no pause to kind of sit back and say, okay, this is what happened, and this is how life is going to change forever. And this is how we're going to meander through all of this. So during that time, the growing up period, I was exposed to alcohol and other things, and I took advantage of it. And it got to a point where I was liking it too much. And so I had to do a control alt delete and throw my hands up and say, look, this isn't the life that neither my mother nor my father would want me to live. This is not the way to do it. Fortunately, I didn't get in any trouble behind it, but it was still not a life. I knew in my heart, this isn't the way I was supposed to live. And, I threw my hands up and I got on my knees and I prayed, and I continue to pray that I won't have that desire or want or thirst to do anything like that. And so what I do when I come into any situation, and I apologize if I'm jumping ahead, Brother Joe.
No, you're good.
I'm just trying to tell my story a little bit. I've matured enough to where anything that's in front of me that doesn't seem or feel quite right, I do my 3 P's. My 3 P's are pause, then I pray, and then I proceed. Because I used to just, if I felt like I wanted to drink something or do something else or whatever, I just do it. But now I've matured enough to pump the brakes and say, okay, if I do this or if I say this, what's likely to be the result? And so, I'm a work in progress, and I pray every day for guidance and for the God to order my steps. Because when I do it, I end up going the wrong direction a lot of times. And so, growing up was tough because I went to a lot of funerals early, and saw a lot of loss. And it affected me with relationships because I loved my father. He was a king to me. He was a strong man. He was a king, prideful, good looking, fun, all those things. And so when he left, it affected me with relationships because I said, if I love somebody so much, they just going to leave me. So kind of keep a little bit of distance and space to protect yourself. And so that's something I had to work on as well. So I wouldn't say I had a bad childhood. I had a really good childhood. My mother did the best she could. And I'm grateful for the experiences I had. I'm grateful for the life I have now, and I'm still a work in progress. And I just, just try to be led by God every single day. So,
love that. Man, I appreciate your transparency and sharing that. I can't imagine what that must have felt like to lose your dad, like I said, at such an early age. But I'm also glad to know that even for the short period of time that you had him, clearly it was a positive experience because, as you said, your dad was everything to you. And I knew that to be the case. Just I've seen you post about your father on social media. And just for our listeners and brothers even online here with me tonight, I mean, I can tell you had a love for your dad because it's not like you just post about him because it's Father's Day or because it's birthday. I feel like he comes across your mind and you put it out there, whether it's a picture that comes to mind to you or maybe something that touches your heart or is going on in your life right now. And it triggers that memory of your dad. So, I'm glad that he had that kind of imprint upon you, and obviously from what we know about you personally, it's clear that there was a man influence. But at the same time, I'm thankful as well that when mom had to kick in and take on that single parent role, if you will, that God sustained her, and she made sure that she was able to impart in you the things that you needed to learn and know about, and to be able to grow and develop into the man that you are. So, we definitely shout out to our strong single Black women, moms who are doing that and stepping up in that situation. So I'm glad that you had an awesome experience in that regard.
I
I'm
want to say one other thing.
Yes, go ahead.
About my father and my mother too. I love them. I worship them. I look, up to them. But I also had a healthy fear as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because they, don't embarrass me, don't eyeball me, don't talk back to me. They talk, speak when you come in the room, things like that. So, yeah, I had a healthy fear as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I'm glad you pointed it out that way. It's a healthy fear. It's probably even another way to say it was a reverence that our parents back then, instilled in us. Like you said, everything from you speak when you come into a room. You just walk up in somebody's house and you don't speak. If you're in somebody's house and that's not your house, you don't go roaming all over the place. You sit down. You don't be begging and asking for stuff. If they offer you something, that's one thing. But you got something to eat, you got something to drink. You act like you have some sense. And there's there's an order. Yeah, some home training, and there's an order, and that order transitions even into adulthood. Like I've oftentimes spoken to tell people, like when my mom was still alive, it was even hard for me to use any type of profanity in front of my mom, even when I was full grown, blown. Say what I want to, I was still, it was like I said, that healthy fear, but it was also a respect. Like you just don't do that. I don't care how old you are. That's your mother, that's your father. There's just a certain conduct. There's a certain way of doing things and approaching, the pleases and the thank yous, they still apply. Just because you're grown doesn't mean that stuff gets thrown out of the window.
Even the other thing is, my mother was a southpaw. I never saw it coming.
He said, I never saw it coming. She got that good left hook for you, huh?
Oh,
if that mouth got a little out of order,
Absolutely. And it didn't take many times before I said, okay, I get it.
Yeah, because we didn't have any concept that when I coming up, we didn't know there was no such thing as a timeout. What does that mean, a timeout? It was a said it once, and I'm not repeating it. I when I told you the first time, that's what I meant. If I had to repeat myself, it was probably gonna come with something, a swing, a swat, or something, to reinforce, the message at hand. So, and again, I'm also appreciate you pointing out the fact that especially when you're going through traumatic events as a kid. Back in the day, as you stated, therapy, counseling, that wasn't a thing. Whether it be not being a thing for financial reasons, but more importantly, especially particularly in the Black community, we just didn't identify with therapy back at that time. That was for crazy people. That was for, something was wrong with you. We don't do that. And then even talking at the top of the show, I spoke about how as men, even in something as traumatic as you losing your dad to a murder, the expectation was that you were supposed to suck that up. You a man. You don't cry over that. It happened. It's unfortunate, but you need to stop all your crying and whining and move on because you a man.
And that is the worst.
That wasn't fair to impart something like that. Wouldn't be fair to impart that upon you. It wouldn't be fair to impart that on any young man that experiences a traumatic event that I'm not supposed to have a right to feel, to express my pain. You loved your dad. You should have been permitted to cry all you want to, be sad all you want to, whatever those emotions were, not making me feel like I'm being soft or weak because I'm having a struggle with this. I mean, this was my king. This was my idol, and he's gone.
Even at the age I am now, sometimes, I'm like, man, I miss this dude.
Yeah. So. I'm sure you do. You like, if he could only be here now, I wish we could just chop it up right now. If he could see some of
Yes.
the things that I'm doing,
Yes.
see how my kids, what would have been his grandchildren and
Yeah.
my wife, and and we do this experience or that experience, and then to know that you can't do that, you almost feel sometimes you might even feel cheated, like
And sometimes I will actually talk to him,
Mm-hmm.
and I will write letters.
Okay.
And it helps me. It's therapeutic for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do it, and I don't think I'm any less of a man for doing that.
No, not at all.
Not at all. At one time, I said, well, I maybe I need to get past it. I said, no, I need to express this somehow, in some way. So I talk and I write letters.
How did losing your dad at such an early age, how did that transition at all into how you conducted yourself once you became a dad? Did that have any impact on how you fathered in any way?
Well, I don't know. I just tried to love my kids just like he loved us.
Okay.
Provide, love, raise my voice a little bit when I need to. I never put my hands on them, but they knew when I wasn't playing no more. They knew when playtime was over.
Makes sense.
So I just tried to be a provider, and try to set examples as best I could. Now, certainly not perfect, but I try to set an example in the way I act, the way I provide, attend church, work in the church, professionally, keep a job and be good at it. And those types of things, and try to help out where I can, volunteer, go out of my way, and all I can do is try to demonstrate those things. If they pick them up, great, but I feel comfortable that I've done those things. Now, everything I've done hadn't been, you would think I knew God, but again, I'm a work in progress, and I suspect I always will be. But I'm trying. I won't give up. I will not give up.
That's beautiful. And again, as you said, we all are work in progress. That's just the reality of it all. I'm curious. I'm gonna shift gears real quick. I'll throw this to Tim and to Sledge. One of the things about both of you brothers, particularly in our church, you have, well, I'm gonna say Tim in the church scenario and Sledge in your actual educational career, you both have been heavily connected to young people. And I'm sure from time to time you encounter young people, whether it was in church or whether it was in the school systems, that have, maybe have either lost their dads or their dads were never around or anything like that. What has been some of how have you kind of, I guess, if you've ever experienced, when you identify kids that don't have their dads around, was there anything particular that you tried to do to be that fatherly presence for those kids? And I'm gonna start with you, Tim. When you're working in youth ministry and you potentially got a kid, especially a young man, that he don't have his dad around. How have you tried to, what things have you maybe have done or taken into consideration to sort of, I guess, be that mentor, to be that positive male role model to some of those young men that you see in children's ministry or in youth ministry that that their dad's not around?
Well, first of all, that is a very heavy question. But before I even start, I want to just give praise to my brother Amos, for being transparent, and just many kudos to you, because I like Joseph, see the post that you do, and you finally call your dad Papa.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's Papa, and I love it. And he was a sharp looking brother. So, and it'll say, I miss my Papa or something like that. So, I like the way you still honor him, continue on a continuous basis. And like Joseph said, not just on Father's Day. And a couple of things that I wrote them down, pause, pray, and proceed.
Yes.
So, Amos, I'm taking notes on you, my brother.
Thank you, brother Sam.
So when it comes to young men that may have lost their father, I'm going to speak. I won't use any names,
mm-hmm.
But there's a young man at our church right now that, although he may not have lost his father is still on the earth, still living. His father is not there at all. It's one thing when you're in a situation like my brother Amos, his father was taken away from him. But when you have a father that is still amongst the living and that person chooses not to be in that child's life, that is something else. So for me, and when I found this out, for me, it's just as an older man. I'm many years older than he is. I never want to step in the place of the father, but it's something to offer godly guidance and counsel. I look at my father, who is still here. My dad is 75 years old and retired military man. So I look at him and I look at how he provided for us. Did he make mistakes here and there? Absolutely. Was he perfect? No. But you talk about looking up to my father, because he provided the example of how to provide for your family, how to love your wife, how to be present in your children's lives. And so when I think about this particular young man at the church, although I can't take the place of his father, I know I can be there when he needs. He has my number to offer counsel, guidance, answer any questions he may have, and just provide that example of what he may not have or didn't have from a young age and still to this day. And then I think about myself and I think about my son. My son grew up with his mom. I remember the day when I was moving away from the college town that I went to school at, and I said, you know what? If I'm not going to be in that town, I'm still going to be present. Mm. And I made it. I made a concerted effort to be present, to make sure, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that even though his mom and I are not together, that Timothy Charles McCray is his father. As a matter of fact, he's not just his father; he's my daddy, and he can call me daddy. Mm-hmm. That goes a little bit deeper than just father. I'm his daddy and still his dad, And so I think to wrap it up, just to provide that counsel, that godly counsel, that guidance. Pray before you speak to these young men, because God will give you the answer. God will give you the words to say. And one of the scripture that we use in Decision University, our youth ministry, is Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. And so I think that's an important verse. It's one of my favorite verses, because I'm constantly asking for guidance when I'm maybe in a situation like that. And I'm sure it will continue to happen, because there are a lot of young men that need father figures and someone to talk to and provide that godly counsel that they need.
Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing. And there's two quick points that you brought up that I thought was so important. I think you emphasized, the need for us to make ourselves available, in the sense that, there may be a young man that we encounter, and whether it's in church, whether it's, or in some other means that they need to know that there's some brothers out there that they can just come up to and be vulnerable and not worry about being judged against or whatever. So I appreciate you making yourself available, but pointing out, and I think it was a key point, because I've been guilty of this myself, where sometimes as men, we make ourselves available, but we may go too far in the sense of it's not necessarily our role to be dad, to take the dad place. That's not, but to just be there, to be a sounding board, to be a person of advisement or whatever. Because we can easily get caught up in those situations, whether it's in relationships with, if let's say prior to being married, if we get caught up in relationships with women that have children, and you trying to play dad, and that's not your role because that's not what you are. I like your the driving home of the point of making yourself available and just being there, letting that young man know, hey, if you need me, you can reach out to me. I don't have any problem with chopping it up with you, giving you some sound advice or whatever. And then I love the fact that you pointed out, you acknowledge the fact that, hey, I got a son that is, he grew up with his mom, but I was intentional about making sure that while me and his mom are no longer together, that doesn't mean that you that you have to miss out on having a dad. That's right. I may not be physically present in that household because of our situation, but you're going to know that you don't have not just that you have a father, but you got a daddy that you can call on, that you can lean into, that you can reach out to. Like you said, beyond a shadow of a doubt that, yep, I have an active presence in your life. You're never going to be able to say that, or have to go through, my dad wasn't there. And I think that is so important, not only to the dads who might be in a situation like you were in, but even to those moms, that just because things didn't work out for you all, don't prevent from that relationship from being able to evolve between father and, in this case, father and son. Because in the end, the one who gets hurt is the child. It's the child when you block that. So I just wanted to acknowledge those two things. And to Brother Sledge, again, you've had an opportunity to work with young people throughout the course of your career, and I'm sure you have encountered situations where, particularly with young men, that they didn't have their dads around, they didn't have that positive male role model. What were some of the ways that you kind of allowed, in the course of doing your actual work duties, your career? How did you handle those situations and being able to make yourself available or come alongside, particularly young men that might have come from homes that they didn't have a positive male presence around or dad around?
Yeah, I want to echo a lot of what Tim said in terms of being available to these young men, these boys who were fatherless, literally or figuratively. I can certainly relate to boys and young men who, while they had their biological dads maybe close by in their homes, those fathers were disengaged. They were emotionally, spiritually, socially disengaged, detached. And so they may have might as well not have even been there, Joseph. One thing that I've done over the course of my career is to let these boys know that there's a man in this school who loves you, who is your biggest fan, one of your biggest fans, typically the mothers were playing that dualistic role of both mom and dad. So I was on their team, and I would let them know. I would want them to come and visit me. Bring me your report card when you get it. We're going to celebrate because I know you're going to soar in your classes. I know you're going to achieve academically, not just athletically. And so putting that message out to these boys in need, and they were the ambassadors for Papa Sledge in the school. They would go and tell their homies, hey, say, fool, you got this going on? I know exactly who you need to talk to. Go talk to Mr. Sledge. Yeah, the art teacher, that black man, he always wears that smock. Or talk to Mr. Sledge, the counselor. So word got out to all these boys who, again, they were fatherless. And it got so big during my last few years in public education, gentlemen, I said, you know what? I'm going to make this official. I'm going to launch a mentoring program. We're going to call it Young Men's Leadership Initiative. And so that was a formal, structured mentoring program for boys who the system labeled at risk. Mm-hmm. It's pretty tragic. If you look in the student database of most school districts, when it comes to Black and brown boys and young men, they're labeled at risk, not to graduate because of these certain factors in their lives. At risk. A lot of them are in special education, not because they are cognitively or intellectually challenged, but because they have certain behaviors that would not be problematic if dad was in their lives. But I launched that program, and I'll cut it short here, Brother Joseph. And it was a huge success. This was something that my job description did not require. But I had speakers coming in. We had MVP award being given out every month to the young man that just really showed up and showed out and did a phenomenal job, again, academically as well as athletically. There were incentives. There was education about all kinds of topics, anything that a young man needed to know in order to be healthy. We would put that on the agenda for discussion. And if there's anything I miss about public education, it's the group of boys that I mentored and that I tapped some other healthy men to join me in mentoring, because the need is glaring. And if I can just read a little bit of a Bible verse, Joseph. Mm-hmm. This is Titus chapter 2, verses 6-8. And Paul is speaking here to one of his ministry proteges, Titus. And he says, likewise, urge the young men to be sensible in all things. Show yourself to be an example of good deeds with purity and doctrine, dignified, sound in speech, which is beyond reproach, so that the opponent will be put to shame, having nothing bad to say about us. And that was pretty much my script as I entered the schoolhouse every day. I was keenly aware that these young brown and Black boys were watching Mr. Sledge to see how he was going to react and respond to whatever situation. How was he going to respond if the principal came and, chewed me out about something publicly and he was unprofessional in his demeanor and communication and so forth. So at any rate, that's some of what I did, again, formally, as I approached retirement last summer.
Love that. And again, for our audience, I just want everybody to know that as men, there's not one specific way that you can come alongside other young men and be a positive influence, whether, like you said, whether it's through the creation of a mentorship program, whether it's simply making yourself available, or just being mindful of how you are carrying yourself day to day, understanding that whether you realize it or not, somebody's always watching you. And there may be a young brother who's watching you. Again, whether, like I said, walking down the street, seeing you in the church, listening to what you say, how you say it, your parents, things of that nature. How often do we see our young men not knowing how to dress properly or speaking in a way that is not, in alignment with how God would have them to speak, and being respectful and being, mindful of their behaviors and the way that they carry themselves. So all of that stuff matters. And so it's so critical, so important that we make sure that we're keeping that in mind as we again, as men, and particularly as men of God, we want to be as much of a positive example in whatever way God leads us to be. I'm not. That doesn't mean we all have to do it exactly the same way, but just know that God can use us in a multitude of ways to be that positive example, not only to young men, but of course, just like what we're doing right now, just having this conversation. We can be of encouragement to one another. We can, be uplifting to one another, just even in our vulnerability. Just making us to be reminded that it's okay. It's okay for us to feel what we feel and deal with what we're dealing with, and knowing that we got a circle of brothers amongst us. There's brothers, whether they're on this call or some that are not on this call, but they're in alignment with the same thinking that we have, that, we can be a community of brothers that can love on one another, be supportive of one another, hug up one another, and make each other feel, like we're not in this life alone. So all of that is beautiful stuff that you brothers have shared in that regard. So I'm going
Hey,
to jump back.
Joseph,
Yes, go ahead.
do you have a quick minute you can afford me?
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, in addition to what I've shared, there is rich reward when these young men that we have mentored come back years later
Mm-hmm.
and say, thank you. Thank you for being there. And somebody has, I think, well observed, that's the essence of the meaning of mentoring. When somebody can say, I would not be the person I am today if you were not there when I was young. But having them come back and just report on what they're doing, how they're doing. And I have the wonderful occasion of joining with one of my mentees. I'm not old enough to be his father. I was more like a big brother, uncle, and he's a pastor now.
Wow.
And he pastors a small church in Pleasant Grove. He's hosting a men's conference this Friday and invited me to be one of the panelists at this men's conference. And that is just rich beyond description, gentlemen. So definitely let the Lord continue to use you to mentor boys and young men. There is rich reward, if not in this life, in the one to come.
Absolutely. Love that. Love that. Awesome. Awesome stuff. So I'm going to flip back over to you, Amos. Kind of continuing our conversation along. Obviously you shared, the childhood experiences that you had. And ultimately that led into your adulthood. And as I'm sure you learned very early on in your adulthood, that along with the various experiences that come along the way, there are also certain life storms that are going to come about in that moment of adulthood. And every now and then, some of those life experiences, those storms that we experience, are going to be a little heavier than the norm. Sometimes we get hit with challenges that, even if we normally are really good at handling adversity and stressful moments, every now and then we get hit with something that's the burden, the weight of it is much more than what we are actually able to bear. So much so that we might have doubts, we might have fears and worries like, how am I going to get out of this situation? So with that said, tell us about a time when you felt that way, where you encountered a situation that you didn't see a way out. You didn't know how you were going to overcome it. This was different than the normal day-to-day type stuff. Obviously, again, you're here today, so we can just trust and believe that God made a way. But maybe at that time you weren't quite sure. How were you going to navigate and work your way through that? So if you would kind of walk us through what that experience was like for you, and what was ultimately the turning point for you to be able to overcome that challenge.
Well, thank you. There have been many. So I guess one of the first thing that comes to mind is when I moved to Texas. The company I was working for at the time moved me here, Nortel Networks. I had a variety of positions there. I was human resources, I was security, I was sales. Had been with that company about 17 years. The company went under. I got laid off, and I had to think about, okay, what are you going to do now? You got a house, you got a family, you got all this stuff. What are you going to do? And so I did a couple of jobs, and finally, a lady who I used to work for called me up one day and said, "Hey, I got an opening for human resources at Raytheon. Do you know anybody who might be interested?" And so I'm
Right.
me. And so it's been a good ride. It's been a good ride, but yeah, I was wondering. Okay, I will, sell pencils on the corner if I need to. I'm not all about the title or prestige or whatever. I need to eat. I need to feed my family. I need to keep the lights on. And so that was my biggest concern. I'm not worried about what the title is. That doesn't matter to me. I just need to make it. I need to man up and do what I need to do. If it's 2 jobs, that's what I'm going to do. And I've actually done that before. And that's just the way I came up. Even if I were retired right now, I would never be the type to just sit around and watch TV. That's just not me. I'm going to do something, because again, I've been working since I was 11 and 12 years old. People would hire me, whether it's mowing grass or the first job I've ever had. And I know I'm kind of going all over the place, and forgive me.
No, you're good.
First job I ever had was shoveling dog waste at a veterinary hospital. That's what I did for $2.50 an hour. And you could eat off those dog runs after I was through with it. But so I would do anything. But the other struggle I've had, and again, this is all about transparency, and for the brothers, I've had multiple health issues. I've had a stroke. I've had a heart attack. I've got stage 1 prostate. So the Lord is keeping me around for something. He is keeping me here to do something. I'm still trying to find out what that is. All I know to do is try to serve him and be an example the best I can. So that has, my health is getting better. I feel good. I walk. I try to eat right. But yeah, my health, and the last time I went to see a doctor, because it seems like I go to him all the time. And I'm grateful to have the health insurance and all of that. But I said, man, what's going on? Because it seemed like it happened all of a sudden. He said, well, you're getting old, Amos. I said, I'm not old, I'm a classic.
There you go.
But those are some things, that experiences I had to kind of, look, okay, what you gonna do? Your health is having some issues with your health. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna eat better, you're gonna exercise, you're gonna, do whatever procedures, they tell you to do. But again, I'm still here and I'm grateful for that. And so I said, it's got to be a reason that God is keeping me here, and I'm still exploring that every single day. So
awesome. Again, I appreciate your transparency and sharing that. You've discussed some very real things that, especially as we get older, particularly with the health, these type of things happen, and it can be scary. Even as a man, if we being straight up, it could be scary. Like I said, when you start having heart attacks and strokes, and and conversations about prostate, and you start lining that up with your age, and if you're not careful, you get to counting years, and like, well, I probably only got this long to hang around, and especially if you still again have a family that you're wanting to enjoy and experience and things like that. So again, that transparency is so important, because as men, we do get nervous about these things. We do get scared about these things, but none of the things that happen in our life, none of the storms that happen in our life are by accident.
That's right.
I truly do believe, and I believe you brothers feel the same, that God allows these things to take place for a reason. And I don't think with your illnesses, I mean, I think, on one part, it's a reminder, hey, you're getting up there a little bit, so you got to be extra mindful about your health and well-being. But then also, those storms come our way because it's an opportunity for us to lean into God a little bit more, to be more dependent upon Him. Because when we get hit with those things that we can't fix, like you can't fix, you can't be the doctor of yourself. You can't remove these things. When you have to rely upon a power that's that's divine, that's much of a higher level than what we're capable of doing in our own strength. Those are the greatest opportunities in our biggest storms, is when God has allowed us for those opportunities for us to get closer to him, for us to lean into him, for him to trust. It would have been very easy for you to just say, you know what, I'm having all this stuff going on, I just give up. I've been eating the way I've been doing. I've been exercising. I haven't been exercising the way I'm just going to roll with it because this is just what I am. This is just what I do. And God said, no. You just spoke about just a moment ago. You said, God obviously has some more work for me to do. He must have something for me to do, because this could have easily taken me out. So why is he keeping me? Because what you just said, there's still work for you to do. And even if you don't know what it is exactly to the fullest right now, that's okay. But I
just want to be available.
Right. You're making yourself available. That's the word. Yes. I'm keeping myself available.
Yes.
Whatever that is that God, you want me to do, however you want me to do it, wherever you want me to do it, I'm good with that. And it's almost a testament to just even how you described your work ethic. Like when you talked about losing your job, you were like, okay, I lost a good job, been with this company for a long time, but at the end of the day, I got bills to pay. I got a family to take care of. And whatever I have to do to make that happen, that's what I'm going to do. Like you said, I didn't get caught up in, well, I will only take another job if it pays this much, or I'll only take this job if it has this title. I got to eat. My family got to eat. I got to take care of them. And you trusted. That was another example of you walking in faith and trusting for God to provide opportunities, to make a way for you to be able to do what you needed to do. And guess what? The blessing came your way that you least expected, because I'm pretty sure when this woman that you worked for just randomly, and I say randomly, I use that word loosely because I don't think it was random. It was divine. God intended for you to get that call. It just so happens that she's looking for someone for a position in which you have previous experience in. Oh, and by the way, this call just so happens to happen when you need a job. Again, from a worldly perspective, we call that luck. From a worldly perspective, we call that, oh, you just, it just happened. It was a random event. But as believers, we know that there's nothing about God that's random. He lined that thing up perfectly, on time, exactly when it needed to happen. And here you are 20 plus years later with this company, at a moment in time when things could have gone completely left and you could have lost everything, but God sustained you. He kept it all together. So you never had to worry about not eating. You never had to worry about being homeless. You never had to worry about your family going without. That's nothing but God.
It's funny that, during that time, I didn't eat everything I wanted to eat, but I ate.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't steaks all the time. And, sometimes, it was less than, but he sustained me and us, and we made it through. And so I'm so grateful, going through hard times, and being able to come through it, and just be grateful for it, because the times, when I lost this position and went to something lesser than, I was still grateful to get up and go every day. I was just grateful, thank you. Because, probably for about 10 minutes, I said, oh, what am I going to do? And so I had to stay down. I call it down, but stay underemployed for probably about 2 years before, things started turning around. But during that time, I didn't complain. I was just glad to be there and be able to eat. It wasn't everything I wanted to eat, but I didn't, it didn't hurt me to lose a pound or two.
I get you. I totally get you, man. That's good. Again, you've always made it. Again, you've always made it a point to be able to hang in during the difficult times. But like I said, not relying upon your own strength, but relying upon the strength of God. And earlier in the show, you talked about losing your dad at an early age. So you got early training on what it meant to rely upon God and to let him guide your steps and to be dependent upon him. So again, these type of events, these type of storms in life, whether it's death, whether it's loss of job, whether it's health concerns, they don't happen by accident. We may not all have the same exact experiences, the same exact storms, but we all are going to go through our storms. But these are opportunities, and that's something that I've been, trying to drive home to not only to my listeners, but to myself, These storms, we have to start looking at them as opportunities for elevating our relationship with God, for being able to elevate who we are and the purpose in which God has intended to use us accordingly. If in order for us to be used at the highest of levels by God, we got to go through something. It's a part of the contract that you sign up for.
Yes,
You know,
right.
you want to walk in your purpose. You want to be that individual that God is destined for you to be. That the whole reason why He created you to begin with. Part of that process includes going through some challenges, going through some storms. But it's never to harm you. It's never to take you out. It's never to destroy you. It's only to build you up and position you in such a way that when God is ready to use you and connect you in whatever way that is, you are ready and good to go because you've already been through those challenges. You've been through those storms. I like to refer to it in my prayers that you're going through that spiritual workout is what you're going through. You know, developing those spiritual muscles, developing that spiritual core, that spiritual endurance, that spiritual mindset.
Yes.
It's the spiritual version of what we might do physically, you know, but nevertheless, you need that component as well, particularly to deal with the life storms that come our way. So,
And
great
they're going to
stuff.
continue to come.
Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
absolutely going to continue to come. But I believe that are more well equipped,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to endure. And because sometimes you just got to go somewhere and sit down and just, you know, wait for things to happen and you know, ask for it. Because I believe you got to tell him what you want. You know, he knows already, but you know, and the good thing about God is that you don't need no appointment. He's open all
Right.
the time, all the time. And so that's one thing that
Yep.
I just love. Anytime I can go to him and pray. So,
That's right. Unlimited access.
unlimited.
You know, unlimited access. There's never a time you're going to reach out to God and He says, "Let me call you back."
Exactly.
Or he's not going. Could you speed this along? I got somewhere else to be. You know,
Yep.
or
Yeah.
you just talked to me an hour ago. Can't this wait? No, you're not going to get any of those type of responses.
Ever.
He's always
Ever.
available, no matter what, no matter how long you need.
Yeah.
He's again, it's an unlimited access, and that's
We
really
all get
an
the
important thing
VIP
too.
treatment.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's really key that we focus on that unlimited access to Him, and you can never get too much of Him. That's another thing too, because remember, we're talking about dealing with challenges and adversities of life, and everybody doesn't always tap into God as being that source to grab hold to. Somebody else might say when they going through some stuff, their thing might be to grab a bottle or something,
Yes.
or to grab something to smoke on or whatever. But even with those things, they're only going to give you temporary, momentary relief, if you will. And if you have too much of any of those things, it can actually be detrimental to you. It could be harmful.
gonna
It could actually
compound
take you
the
out. It can compound things, but you can never
It's
get too
going to
much of God.
compound the issue.
Right. You can't OD on God.
Yes.
You can't
Yeah.
you can't, you know, be sloppy drunk on God to where you pass out and can't function. The more you get of Him, you actually improve. You actually get better versus the other thing where you're
Amen.
suppressing or putting off thinking about something. No, God is able to deal with that thing right now, judgment free, lovingly, unconditionally, where you can release that pressure and tension off of you and hand it off to Him, and He's welcomely receiving it. Like, give it to me.
Mhm.
Now, when you give it to me, I don't want you sitting around worrying about it because you gave it to me. I told you I got it. I just need you to be patient and
Yes.
let me do what I do in the timing and in the manner that I do it. Because most of the times when we do turn that thing over to God, we already have in mind how we think He's supposed to work it out, and what we oftentimes discover, and when He's supposed to work it out. And usually we got the timing off as well as the process off, you know. But then when He does do His thing, we're oftentimes blown away and amazed, like, I never knew it was going to be at this time, and I had no idea He was going to do it
That's
like
right.
this.
That's
It
right.
was I would have never thought of it this way, but that's why He is who He is. His ways are perfect. He don't
That's
need
right.
no counseling or advisement on our part as to how to facilitate that thing. It's just what He does. So
Amen.
awesome,
It's like
awesome
the
stuff.
people who are in Alcoholics Anonymous and stuff, and they talk about, well, I tried to be my own sponsor. That don't work.
That don't work. That don't work. You know, it's just like when we talk about giving your life to Christ, you know, and
Yes.
people who hesitate and say, well, I want to do it. I understand. I recognize the importance of doing it, but I want to clean myself up first. Well, ain't that the whole point is for you to come in so you can get cleaned up there, not you clean up first. You don't have an illness and let me get well first before I go to the doctor and get it checked out.
Right.
It's kind of backwards thinking, but we have a tendency to fall into those traps if we're not careful. So that's good stuff. Good stuff. So, Amos, earlier you spoke about, and it was so profound. We all were feeling it and taking notes about the pause, the pray, the proceed. Because one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, when you find yourself in challenging situations where you're having to deal with a moment of adversity, again, whether it's something major or even if it's just something, the minor day-to-day type of stuff, what things do you like to do that kind of works best for you? And you may mention earlier, again, that pause, praying, and proceed. What I want to ask you, though, is if you would kind of elaborate on that for us. Like, what does the pause look like for you when you're facing adversity? What does the pray look like for you? And what does that proceed? Kind of walk us through that process. I think this is something that not only we can take and apply, but somebody might be listening and they need to know just exactly how that pause, pray, and proceed works. If you would break that down for us when we're dealing with adversity moments like that. I think Amos, are you still with me, Amos? All right, go ahead. I'm sorry, we had lost you momentarily.
A relationship with a situation you're dealing with, job, wife, marriage, kids, whatever, and you're getting ready, considering doing something big that could have some huge effects. Just pause and think it through. Pause is just pause. Don't just chin. Pause and then pray. Take it to the Lord in prayer. This is what I'm thinking about. This is what I'm dealing with, and I just don't know which direction to go. I just don't know, and I'm coming to you for guidance. Now, you may not get it right there.
Mm-hmm.
It may be overnight. You got to sleep on it, or maybe the next week. Sometimes it's quick, but it takes some time. But prayer is a key. Pausing and praying are two of the key actions that have helped me to make good decisions. And then after you do that, then you proceed. You proceed with whatever God has put into your heart to do, and what you have, what you think is the best. And that's the process that I go through with just about everything. And it has worked for me. But that pause button, that is key. You just don't run out there and do anything. Think about it. What do you want? Why do you want it? What are you expecting to get out of this? And then pray on it as long as you need to. And come completely transparent. Sometimes I'm maybe too transparent, but when you get as old as me, sometimes your memory is there, so you gotta be straight. And so I try to be transparent when I say, this is what I'm struggling with. And I know you already know this, and I just need some help and some guidance. And I'm not too proud to ask for that. I think I'm a strong man, but I'm not too proud to say, I just don't know the answer, and I need your help.
Mm-hmm.
And then you proceed. And that's it.
I love that. Love that. That pause, like you said, is so key, not only for you to just take a moment to process everything, yes, but I think it's also, that pause is also key because it's an opportunity for you to, whatever emotions that you're feeling, this is your chance to get those emotions out. If you're angry about it, get it out now. If you're sad about it, get it out now. Because at the end of the day, you're still a human being, and God recognizes that. He knows that you're going to feel some kind of way when you're facing a particular situation or challenge. So again, if you need to be angry, if you need to cry, if you need to scream, whatever that is, have your moment to get that out. But then once you get it out, now it's time, like you said, to go to God in prayer on that thing and say, Lord, and being willing to be transparent and say, look,
yes,
I don't know what to do. Help me with this. Be specific. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'll give you another example. Like if somebody you feel like has done you wrong,
mm-hmm,
and your first thing is to retaliate in some kind of way. Pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. And go. So that's, another example of when those 3 steps could come in, because you don't know what they're going through, and that you carrying that around with you is a load that you don't need. Yeah, they disrespected you in a way that you thought wasn't cool. You don't have to deal with them no more, but you can pause and say, no, I'm not going to go over his house and, bust the window, flatten his tire or whatever. I'm going to pray for him, but don't bother me no more.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like you said, just, don't be so quick to jump the gun. Don't be so quick to reach a decision when you know you don't know what to do. Don't be so hasty. Not only on the front end, but don't be hasty on the back end either. When I give it to God, I put it up in prayer to him. Don't be trying to rush him with a response.
Right.
God is not on your timetable or on your clock. I know, because it's kind of like when we say to people, just because it's your emergency, don't make it my emergency.
Right.
It's the same way with God. It's like, okay, I know you all worked up and anxious and pressed for this to happen right now, but I'm not in a rush, because he can see the scenario, the situation way more clear than we would ever be able to. So when we are freaking out and panicking over, he's like, look at him over here just tripping about this. This is not even that serious. You'll be all right. Sorry, it looked like we had a little technical difficulty on Amos's end. You back with us, Amos? You good?
I'm back.
Okay. What did you just say? We missed it. You went out momentarily.
I was saying, when you go to prayer, you don't have to keep asking, because I'm sure God's like, I heard you twice the first time.
Right.
I got you.
And like you said, that pause is not only to, even on the back end with that pause, it's like, I got to pause in the sense, like in terms of waiting patiently, but then I also have to pause. And I just heard a pastor speak about this recently I was just happened to be flipping through some videos on social media, and he talked about how many of us pray the wrong way. And what he meant by that was we spend so much time talking and not enough time listening to what God has to say. He said, we'll get this long drawn out prayer. And then as soon as we say in Jesus' name, amen, then we walk away and think that we're done. He say, you'd be better off praying for 10 minutes and sitting for 50 minutes to listen for the answer than just trying to do this whole long talking it out, and then you don't get any response. You don't give God an opportunity to speak to you how, as you spoke of, how to proceed, because I'm too busy talking, or I'm too busy in a hurry. Like, take a breath, calm down, sit back, and let me speak to you. Let me pour into you what you need to know, so you will know how to proceed the right way, at the right moment, at the right time, with the right delivery. So, sometimes we miss that in that process.
Keep your mouth shut, your heart and your ears open.
There you go.
Hey, Joseph, can I just, once again, we are, and thank you so much, Amos, for this, and as I keep thinking about pausing, praying, and proceeding, it spoke to me so much, and, I'm going to employ that now. But what comes to mind is that even if you do pause, pray, and proceed, you might have to do one of those things that says repeat steps 1 through 3.
Absolutely.
You pause, pray, and proceed, and you get to level, but you might have to pause again, pray, and then proceed a little bit further, because as God takes us through dimensions in life and levels in life, sometimes we have to hit pause probably 1,000 times and pray without ceasing, as the word says, and then proceed again. Because a lot of times it's just not that smooth rocket all the way through. We have to pause and stop so many times. But if we remember to pray without ceasing, that pause, pray, proceed just comes into picture much more clear. So I'm jacking it from you, Amos. It's mine.
Right. Don't feel some kind of way
Feel
when
free.
you see me walk in one day with a T-shirt.
Please feel free. Feel free. Feel free.
Because that is an awesome yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say it works, and please feel free.
Absolutely.
Hey, you know what, brother?
Yes,
Brother
go ahead.
Joseph,
Mm-hmm.
like you, our brother Amos is one of my favorite brothers at the church. All the brothers are, but you have this inner circle of holy homies, and Amos has just worked himself into that inner circle with his humor, his wit, his wisdom. Man, I got a whole page of notes here, from what Deacon Amos has dropped on us, this evening, these choice morsels of wisdom, and I mean, it's just rich, and so thank you, Brother Amos, and I'm so delighted that you're here with us this evening. I just want to sit and listen to God continue to use our brother and minister to me, because we're this is our holy huddle. You all are my holy homies, and just to be transparent, man, right before joining, I was rattled because me and Sister Sledge, we had a marital spat, and it rattled me. It rattled me, man, and I mean, trying to get my bearings to minister and to hear from the Lord and to say something that was going to be spiritually enriching to the audience, that was difficult. And Brother Joseph, you may recall that rally devotional where I asked the question of the ministry servants: raise your hand if you've ever shown up on Sunday morning scheduled to minister, but it's just been like an absolutely horrendous morning.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like that for me. So this is such a blessing for me. And again, we have the Apostle Amos with us. God has used him to encourage my heart, edify me in the holy faith. And for all the brothers out there that tune in to this squad cast, every man needs to have a squad of holy homies.
Mm-hmm.
Every brother. We cannot traverse this journey after the Lord Jesus Christ in isolation alone and expect to be successful and victorious, at least not with any degree of consistency. And so, again, I just want to encourage all the brothers that are tuning in. Make that one of your assignments after, we conclude that you're going to identify holy homies that you can call, you can text and say, hey, you got a few minutes. I need prayer. I need somebody to vent to. Here's what happened with me and the missus. I need you. I need you. And it's okay for men to say that to men.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm glad you pointed that out, man. It's so important to have that. I mean, I know we're doing this podcast this evening, and and of course we have ministries at church, with Iron Man, and we see each other, we always speak or what have you. But if being transparent, like I don't get to have these kind of conversations on a regular basis. I just don't, because like I said, you're kind of dealing with your rigmarole of day-to-day life, and as you stated, Brother Sledge, sometimes you have some challenges going on, whether it's, like I said, a spat with the spouse, a battle with kids, somebody, rubbed you the wrong way in the workplace. I mean, or you just dealing with just day-to-day struggles of, whether it's finances or some other major decisions or health-related concerns or things of that nature. So being able to know that you got a circle of brothers that you can tap into to again, be transparent with, and just say, hey, just need a few minutes of your time, just that again, these brothers are going to be there with open arms, with listening ears, ready to to receive what you have to say, even if it's just you just venting. It's nice to know that you have that. So opportunities like this, whether we're doing it in this format or just amongst each other face to face, it's so important, and we need more of it. We need more of it. We shouldn't have to formally schedule something for those type of things to take place. They should naturally manifest themselves, and we should be intentional and active in our connecting with one another, and just like I said, just chopping it up and just talking about some of the stuff that men deal with, that are specific to men, that we face challenges with, and just getting that feedback, being one another's sounding board, to be able to encourage and pour into each other. Because as you said, we wouldn't have known that you were feeling some kind of way before you started, and so we're just thankful that, that we had this, that again, it wasn't by accident. We know it was on schedule, but it was on divine schedule, that God knew that each one of us needed to hear a word, an encouragement, needed to have a smile on our faces, because, maybe today was a rough day, or maybe the last couple of days was a rough day. We don't never know. So, I appreciate you pointing that out. So, because it's definitely a necessity that we need amongst brotherhood, on a day-to-day basis. So Amos, with all of the experiences and challenges and just life as a whole, good, bad, ups and downs, and everything in between, if you had an opportunity to speak to the younger Amos, if you could sit him down, and share with him, impart some knowledge, some wisdom in him, that you believe, had he had this information early in life, it might have helped him navigate the storms and challenges and moments of adversity a little bit better, a little bit smoother. Or perhaps somebody might be listening that have dealt with some of the things that you spoke of, challenges, and they don't know how to process that. What would be your words of advice and encouragement to say, to say to younger Amos, or to say to that brother who's tuning in and they're feeling lost? They don't know what to do in terms of dealing with the challenges of life.
So, I would say, raise your hand and say, I'm sad, I'm frightened, I'm angry, whatever emotion you're feeling. Share that with somebody that you trust, without fear of being judged, without fear of thinking that it's going to affect your manhood in some way. Because, again, to your point, we're all just human, and sometimes we need some help. And, when I was coming up, again, the role models I had around me wanted to drink, drug, chase women, and do those kind of things. And that was it was just wrong. I know they loved me, and that's probably the experience that they had. That's how they grew up. But, I needed something more. But I would say, don't be afraid to raise your hand and say, I need some help.
Love that.
And, be okay with that, because I think it takes more strength to do that than to just keep it all in. Because it's going to stay there, and it's going to fester, and it's going to come out in ways that are unhealthy, mean, spirited in some ways, unless you deal with it. If you got some kind of trauma in your life, deal with it. Deal with it. Don't keep it inside. Don't keep it to yourself. It's what I would tell anybody who's gone through anything.
Love that. Love that. Same question for you, Brother Tim. There's a brother that's listening, going to tune into this show, and they're ready to give up. They've been just bumping their head. They don't feel like nothing is working for them in life, no matter how hard they try. They just don't know how to. They don't feel like they have a support system. They're just ready to just throw in the towel. I'm just sick of just life. I'm just sick of fighting. Yeah. What's your advice to that brother to keep him encouraged and let him know that regardless of the storms that he may be facing, that he needs to hang in there and keep fighting? What would you have to say to him?
First of all, that's a great question. And I can't help but to echo my brother Amos. You asked the question, what would you tell the younger Tim? What would you tell him, or what advice would you give him? Raise your hand. Raise your hand and ask questions. And don't be fearful. I think in life, fear destroys a lot of us because we're afraid to proceed forward with whatever it is in life. But the word says God has not given us a spirit of fear. And I know people throw that out there. It almost sounds like a cliche. But he really hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. So raise young Tim, young fellow, whoever it is, raise your hand. Say, I need help. Ask questions. Be curious. Because the lack of knowledge, and we can get biblical, but it is true, we perish for lack of knowledge. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. That's how we get further along in life. That's how we learn things. That's how we're edified. That's how we're built up, because we ask those questions. And for young people who may be tuning in, ask the questions, but ask that question to the right person. Mm-hmm. And I think Amos said it. Ask that question to the person that you trust, that you know is a man or woman of God, that will give you sound advice because they love you. Love covers a multitude of sin. And if we can love people like our Heavenly Father loves us, and we can pour into the younger people, the younger Tim, and say, hey, God loves you. Hey, and we can tell that younger person, hey, I love you. And just pour into their lives and tell them, hey, ask a question. Ask me. And raise your hand. Don't be afraid. Because fear will keep you at the bottom level of life. Fear will keep you from achieving the goals you want to achieve in life. Fear will keep you from, in some cases, even asking God for the things that you want in life. So ask those questions, raise that hand, and don't be fearful. Overcome that spirit of fear. And I think with that, that's where success in life comes from. And we can all define success in life in different ways. Whatever you may see as a success may be so totally different from someone else, but just those three things: raise your hand, ask questions, and conquer that fear that you may have.
Love that. Love that. Same question for you, Sledge. I've given up hope. I'm tired. I'm feeling defeated. I don't know what to do anymore. What you got to say to that brother that's feeling like that right now, that's tuning in? I'm ready to give up, man. I'm just over it. I'm done with it. What words of encouragement do you have for him?
Well, the preacher and the therapist in me unite in saying, believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. Believe in, believe on the Lord Jesus Christ. That's the starting point. I'm reminded of the words that our Lord spoke to his disciples and others who were listening to him on a particular occasion. He said, come unto me, all you who are weary and heavily laden. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light, and you will find rest for your souls. I believe that's Matthew chapter 11, close to the end of the chapter. But when all else fails, when we have nowhere else to look except up, that's our cue to trust in the Lord Jesus Christ as Savior. And I echo what Amos and Tim have said in terms of advising their younger selves, raising your hand, asking for help, asking for guidance, not being ashamed to do that. What is so tragic for a lot of young people today is they don't even know to do that. They don't even know. You mean I can actually ask somebody to help me with this situation? Yeah. That's why we have counselors in schools. That's why you have all of these wonderful, loving teachers and administrators. You can ask for help. We want you to ask for help. And what Tim said about not being afraid. You know, growing up in Harlem, New York as a high yellow brother was not a good thing. If you were a high yellow sister, you were a fly girl. But a high yellow brother that came close to his Apostle Amos says, almost handsome. Man, all the other regular looking brothers, they targeted you for regular beatdowns because they were jealous. I'm like, man, I can't help it that, you know, all the girls think I'm cute and they want to be seen with me. But not being fearful, that is crippling. It's paralyzing. And I think if I had an opportunity to speak to the young Sledge, teenager, college age, I would say, man, stop being afraid. It's going to be all right. You know why? Because God said it's going to be all right. And because God is all right, it's going to be all right. You're going to be all right. But I think those are just 3 bullet points that I would really want to share with, myself or young people today. If I had like a minute, it would be those 3.
Love that, man. I appreciate all 3 of you. You dropped some gems, not only throughout the podcast, but specifically for this, because again, we got a lot of young men, young brown and black men who are struggling, going through, and even some older, brown and black brothers who they just don't have the community. They don't have the, that person that they can tap, that other brother that they can tap into to ask, like you said, to ask these questions, to be able to overcome those fears that we talked about, and being able to ask for help, because as we shared at the very top of the podcast about, that's just not how we were raised, to ask for help. Because we were always made to think that was a sign of weakness, but it's not. And we need the brothers of all ages to understand that there's nothing weak about you needing help. Everybody needs help from somebody sometimes. And, but it is key to make sure that you're seeking help from the right source. And, so if you're going to tap into another brother for help, that's great. But you just want to make sure that brother is tapping into the ultimate source, which is God himself. Right. If he's a godly brother and you tapping into him, you're going to be good to go, because he's going to be speaking from a place of authority because of who he's getting that insight and wisdom from, that might be something that you can apply in your life to your situation that's going to be helpful to you, that's going to be a blessing to you, that's going to help you, as Brother Sledge talked about, take off that heavy burden, take off that weight, and tap into that yoke that is light, being able to get into a space and place where you can actually feel rested, mentally rested, emotionally rested, spiritually rested, physically rested, and that type of rest that is something that I oftentimes refer to in my prayer each day, that I refer to it as that joy, that peace, that calm, that only God can provide to you. So when I find myself stressing and pressing about whatever it is that's going on in life, I'm thankful every day that God allows me to tap into that joy, that peace, that calm, that not only instantaneously takes that pressure and that weight up off of me, but it's also a reminder to me that if I've taken it to him in prayer, I've turned that thing over to him, then I no longer have anything to be stressing and worrying about because it's in the hands of the one who's the ultimate problem solver, the ultimate fixer. He's going to always come up with the right way and the right timing to do whatever it is that needs to be done. In fact, the moment you turn it over to him, the problem is already solved. We just now have to operate in that pause moment, in that patient moment, to just wait and see how it plays out, as well as keeping our eyes and ears open to what specifically that God wants us to do in the interim to lead us to the victory. The victory is already there, but there's going to be a time when God is going to require work from us to reach that point, and we have to have that faith, we have to have that obedience to walk accordingly, do exactly as He told us, even if it doesn't make sense to us, even if it sounds crazy. If He says it, it's going to be all right. I don't care if He tell you to hop on one leg, cover one eye, spin around, and sing a song. If that's what He told you to do, proceed accordingly as He told you to do it. And when you find out in the end, when you do it exactly the way God told you to do it, I don't know about you, but I know from my own personal experiences, when I've done it the way God told me to do it, even if it didn't make sense to me up front, it's never ended with a bad outcome. It's never ended with, a letdown or a setback. It never did. Now, oftentimes when I tried to wing it on my own, it's come out that way, but definitely not when I allowed God to be the lead and I actually followed that lead, again, in obedience and in faith. So great stuff, fellas. Great
stuff. I can say one more thing.
Yes, go ahead.
Joseph, please.
Mm-hmm.
This is for any brothers or ladies that's out here listening to this. If you've been carrying around something your whole life, through your formative years, through your adult years, give it away. Give it away. You don't have to carry it anymore. You just don't. To your point, take it to God. Ask Him to take it off of you or guide you through it. Because I've known people, and myself, have carried stuff for a large part of my life. And when I finally threw my hands up and said, I need some help, it comes. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage anybody, if you got anything, no matter what it is, it's time to let it go. Time to let it go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, brothers, this has been a wonderful conversation. Lots of wisdom, lots of knowledge dropped here. Appreciate your transparency, your authentic and genuine way as you've shared your respective stories and insights. I know I've been blessed. I know my listeners are going to be blessed. And this has just been a blessed moment to just come together as brothers in Christ. And again, just sharing and pouring and encouraging and uplifting one another. So words cannot truly capture how wonderful of an experience that this has been. And it's definitely something that we need more of. Again, be it on this platform or just, again, in whatever means and platforms that we have available to us. We need to do this more and more because we got to be in support of one another. We got to love on one another. We got to keep each other encouraged because the reality is being a man, and definitely being a man of God, is not an easy task. It's a lot to it. There's a lot of weight, a lot of pressure. And, when we get out here trying to do it on our own, it can wear us out. It can bring us down. And we need brothers like ourselves and other brothers who are not a part of this moment at this time, but that are like-minded, that are just going to be there again to just encourage us and keep us lifted. This has definitely been a privilege and honor to be a part of this experience with you, brothers. But as is customary on the Blessings in the Streets podcast, before I let you go, I do want to take an opportunity to celebrate you, brothers, to love on you, to acknowledge you, to uplift you. So if you got any exciting news, personal or professional, anything going on in your lives coming up or going on right now that you'd like to share, please do so. Because again, we want to celebrate and acknowledge that. So I'm going to jump to you, Amos. Anything exciting you got to share with us, man? What's going on with you? What's coming down the pike for Amos or Amos and his family?
Well, I'm going through this health journey and things are looking better. I've over the past month, I've seen a lot of different doctors for a lot of different things. And, all the reports are coming back good. They say, keep doing what you're doing. And, so I was real pleased at that. Work is going very well. Marriage, it's a challenge sometimes. I got to learn when to just shut up and just, just say, okay. And I'm just grateful for you, brothers, because I got much love for you. each and every one of you. And I'm honored to be in this podcast with you. And I look forward, to continue, our brotherhood and being talking to each other and being transparent because, I don't want to hold anything back. If you got anything you want to know about Amos, just ask. And I will tell you, if I can benefit anybody from any experiences I've had, I'm happy to do so, individually or collectively. So I'm just grateful for life, and I'm just happy to be here and feel privileged to be invited to such an audience. So thank you again.
Awesome, man, and thank you, man, and again, much blessings to you and all that's going on your health journey, man. May God continue to keep that thing positive and expedient and keep you on the right track because he's got work for you to do, man,
Yes.
and you got a beautiful family and and you're just a beautiful brother in yourself. So we not ready to let you go just yet. We need you around for a little bit longer. So
I appreciate it because I'm not ready to go.
we ain't ready to just let you go quite yet. I'm gonna swing it over to Tim. Tim, same thing, man. What you got anything exciting you want to share that's going on personally or professionally? We want to celebrate you and love on you too, my brother. What's going on with you?
Well, thank you, Joe. Life is exciting in general to me. As I look forward to possible new career opportunities within my same company or outside, but I'm starting to look at some possible new career opportunities. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And I echo Amos and talking about the health journey. And being fully transparent, I'm borderline diabetic. And so just being fully transparent, and so here over the past month and a half, I've been making some changes in eating habits and exercise and even intermittent fasting just to make sure that I keep this temple where it needs to be and making sure this temple that the Lord has given me that I'm taking care of it because the bottom line is we're soldiers. We're soldiers in God's army, and it would be good to be healthy soldiers in God's army. So let's continue on this health journey, making sure we're healthy. Look, I'm looking for new career opportunities, as I stated, and Amos talked about marriage, and I'm excited about my marriage still. I'm still learning my wife, and as we continue to still learn our spouses, we can be excited about that as well. I'm excited about my children. I'm excited about my son possibly asking his lady friend to marry him. I'm excited about my upcoming senior and sophomore in high school. So life is exciting. I'm excited about our church and so on and so on. ...
Awesome. And again, to you and your family, man, much love, much blessings. Plenty to celebrate with that your union, your beautiful daughters. I know you like me. They growing up too fast. They just ignoring our directives to stop growing, but they're growing. But they're doing well in school and bright future ahead of them, man. And again, you doing your work, man. In life and in church, man, just a positive role model and example, and just the overall great brother to know as well. So, again, much blessings and love to you. And last but not least, Brother Sledge, what you got going on, man? Personally, professionally, we want to show you some love as well, man. What's coming down the pipe for Brother Sledge?
Well, I am excited about returning to adjunct teaching at Criswell Bible College in Dallas, Texas in the fall. Okay. I'll be teaching undergraduate course on human development and social psychology. So as my former pastor used to say, I covet your prayers. That's a rich time of just being able to pour into young lives and prep them for ministry. And so I'm really looking forward to that. Also, spring 2025, that's going to be, Lord willing, the time where I will be walking across the stage at Dallas Theological Seminary with my doctorate in educational ministry. I'm finishing up 2 courses, the final 2 courses, I think. I need to speak to my advisor this summer. And then in October, the middle of October, I will move into the dissertation phase. And so, again, I covet your prayers, brothers. And I'm just excited about the ministry opportunities that the Lord has opened up to me at, our church. Some of y'all know I was content just to be in the parking lot, directing traffic and doing security. But the Lord, he was like, what do you think I have invested all of this education into you for? Not just to, do security and direct traffic. I've got other things I want you to do. So I'm looking forward to continuing in the various ministries that the Lord is opened up to me at our church.
That is
Thanks,
awesome
brother.
News. Yes, that is awesome news, my brother. Dr. Sledge, we just already going to go ahead and claim that, doctor. And, so much blessings to you that you have a strong finish with your final courses and your dissertation. We're just going to claim that victory in advance, man, and just loving how God is using you in a mighty way. Like you said, whether it's in the parking lot or whether it's in the pulpit, doesn't matter. God knows how to tap into you and into those gifts that He's put inside of you, allowing you to be to minister into each of us in just your own unique way. You got your own flavor, your own style. Anybody who knows you got a flow like no other. But it's all founded in God's word, and that just makes you the man that you are, and the example that you are, not only amongst men, but again amongst young men who admire and look up to you. And strive to tap into some of those very same positive traits that I'm speaking to, that they can apply into their own lives and be better men themselves. So great work from you, and great work from all of you brothers. So again, privileged, honored, proud of you brothers, and just thankful that I know you and that I can call you not only brothers, but I can call you friends. So with that said, for my listeners, if you've enjoyed our content today, you've enjoyed this broadcast, all that we've talking about, pouring into young men and just emphasizing the importance of men coming together in general and being vulnerable and open and transparent and loving on one another and supporting and encouraging and uplifting one another. If that's been of great value to you, I encourage you to subscribe, to share, to like, to comment, because this is what the Blessings in the Streets podcast is all about the encouragement, the uplifting, the inspiring, being transparent, being vulnerable, letting you know that we're not perfect. We don't get it all right all the time. We are works in progress, but we understand that where it all begins, this journey where it all finds its strength at, is by having God at the head of it all. And I tell you right now, if you don't currently have a relationship with God, today is a mighty fine day for you to make that happen. And just as you heard all of these brothers speak today, and they will all tell you without a crack on a smile or anything like that, no fakeness about it, they will all tell you it'll be the greatest decision that you will ever make to enter into a relationship with God, because again, He's the ultimate provider. He has unlimited wisdom. You have unlimited access to Him, and He has an unconditional, unlimited love for you. He wants nothing but the best for you. Even in the midst of the storms, He is never going to allow those storms to come your way and leave you hanging. He wants to be there to be of support to you, to be of encouragement to you, to stretch you in ways that you might not do on your own, but in the end, it's going to benefit you in the long run, not only for your own personal development, but for Him to be able to use you accordingly for the advancement of His kingdom. So with that said, my brothers, again, it's been a privilege and an honor to have you. And to my audience, remember, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you keep fighting that good fight. Keep being resilient. Be consistent. Apply that principle that you learned tonight about pausing and praying and proceeding. Lean into God. He is the source. He is the answer. He is the way. Follow Him in obedience and in faith, and you will not be steered wrong. Blessings will be abundant not only in your life, but you will be equipped to be a blessing to other people that He is already predestined for you to come alongside of and pour into. So until next time, you take care of yourselves. I look forward to seeing you again in our next episode. May God be with you and love on you always. It's been a pleasure having you aboard. We'll see you next time.
Amen.